How do you think having a hero affects your life? I think having heroes can help shape our values, our views of the world, and our views of ourselves. Whether you look up to a captain of industry, a scientist, a performer, a sportsman, or a parent, looking up to others and having a role model in your life can impact its trajectory. Having someone to look up to in life gives us the courage to dream bigger, the drive to push further, and the ability to visualize ourselves running that extra mile. Seeing ourselves in others motivates us. Seeing someone else succeed where we want to succeed shows us that our dreams are possible. But what happens when we do not have any role models, any heroes, anyone like us to look up to? Believe it or not, I am deaf. I have 100% hearing loss in both ears. I wasn't born deaf, I became deaf. When I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with hearing loss. When my parents told me, I don't remember actually processing what those words meant together. Hearing loss. But I sensed that it was not a good thing. I didn't feel different. But what I do remember is this shift in perception that occurred when people found out my diagnosis. Suddenly people started treating me differently, like I was fragile, broken, weaker, to be pitied. But I didn't want to be treated differently. So, being just a kid, I convinced myself that if people didn't know my diagnosis, then they wouldn't treat me differently. And if they didn't treat me differently, then I wouldn't be different. Denial 101. But using that logic, I chose to keep my hearing loss a secret. And I kept that secret for the next 18 years of my life. As a child, every 6 months I was asked to take a hearing test, and every 6 months I failed. Doctors couldn't tell me why I was losing my hearing, if I would continue to lose my hearing, or if my level of hearing would ever stabilize. My future was uncertain. I felt like I was living a double life, because while I was failing tests at the doctor's office, I was getting straight A's in all of my classes at school. I had lots of friends, and I was acting professionally in commercials and on TV shows. To an outsider, I looked like a happy kid. But behind the scenes, I was struggling. The older I got, the more hearing I lost. By the time I was 7 years old, I needed hearing aids in both ears. And they were a constant physical reminder to me that I was different. I stopped letting people hug me for fear of feedback from my hearing aids. I wore my hair down to hide the machines that now sat on my ears every day. And as my hearing decreased, so did my self-esteem. I lived in fear of my friends or teachers discovering my secret. More than that, I lived in fear of silence. Each night, I went to bed praying my hearing would stabilize and I could keep what I had left. Each hearing test proved that my prayers had gone unanswered. Again. Growing up, I needed a hero. I needed to see someone with hearing loss living a happy, successful, independent life. I needed to know that that was possible for me. I remember desperately flipping through the pages of magazines for a model wearing a hearing aid. I searched through the channels of my TV, hoping to see a lead character ask for someone to repeat a sentence, just because they didn't hear it the first time. I watched the news, hoping to catch an interview with a hard-of-hearing doctor, astronaut, athlete, or scientist. I was left disappointed. I didn't see people like me, people who were openly living, succeeding, thriving with hearing loss. This made me start to question what I could do, what my limits were in this world. I knew that I was passionate about acting, but would the world let me be an actor if I couldn't hear? As the years passed, my hearing continued to get worse and worse. The more hearing I lost, the more I tried to hide my daily struggles. It was very isolating. I was a kid. I didn't know anyone else who was going through this or who had gone through this. My secret eventually started to weigh on me. I didn't like myself. I lived in constant fear, anxious that people might figure out that I wasn't perfect. Then, in the middle of the summer between my junior and senior years of college, the thing that I had lived in fear of my entire life happened. I awoke to discover that I had lost the last of my hearing. I was deaf. I'm only human, so at first, I was upset. I asked myself all the questions you would expect. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? What kind of future is there for me? How? How will I do basic things like wake up to an alarm in the morning, talk to my friends, communicate with my family without being able to hear? How am I supposed to understand my class lectures? I mourned a part of me that was gone for good. My hearing. Then I realized something incredible. I may be deaf, but I am still me. I still had the same dreams, the same goals, the same ambition. I still have the same sense of humor, love of art, and quirky personality. Once I realized that my biggest nightmare had become my reality and that I was still here, still breathing, still me, everything changed. I didn't have to live in fear of the unknown anymore. Suddenly, this huge weight was lifted from my shoulders and I was free. I remember taking a deep breath and asking myself, what now? No one was going to give me the answers to all of my questions. I had to go find them for myself. I was deaf and mute with no knowledge of sign language and little to no lip reading skills. I was communicating solely through writing. At that time of my life, I was 1 year away from completing my college degree. So I decided that finishing my education was a goal worth achieving. I started thinking about what I needed to make my dream of finishing my education happen. Firstly, I needed to find a way to communicate my thoughts and ideas to others. And then I needed a way to understand what other people were trying to communicate to me. So I started teaching myself to talk again. At night, I practiced forming words with my lips in the mirror, and I used vibrations to tell how loud or soft I was speaking. Then I started teaching myself to lip read. I sat and I watched my family converse around the table, noting how their mouths moved. I watched news anchors deliver the news and actors deliver lines with intense focus. After that, I found help in the form of real-time captioners who would live transcribe what was being said in my classes so I could understand my lectures. That fall, without missing a single semester, I started my senior year with the rest of my peers. With some faith and a lot of hard work, I graduated in the summer of 2012 with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration, double majoring in International Business and in Marketing Management with an emphasis in Entertainment Marketing. Yeah, you try saying that 5 times fast. With that piece of paper, I proved to myself that I could do anything I put my mind to. So I decided to set my sights on my passion for acting. And this time, my timing was perfect. You see, for the first time in my life, there was a character on TV that I could relate to. When Switched at Birth aired, I knew that this was a show I wanted to be a part of. So I thought outside the box. They were looking for more deaf actors to add authenticity to the show. So I got myself a reoccurring background role on the series. My first day on set, I found myself in a giant soundstage. To my right, there was a group of hearing actors, and to my left, there was a group of deaf actors. I had a decision to make. I could stick with the comfortable hearing world that I was raised in, but that was no longer accessible to me. Or I could take a chance on this deaf world that I knew nothing about, but that was filled with people who might be able to understand the struggles that I have been enduring my entire life. I chose to join the group of deaf actors, and that was the first step on my journey of self-discovery. On set, in between takes of the popular TV show, my deaf friends taught me about deaf culture, new ways of doing things as a deaf person, and I became fluent in American Sign Language. Over my 2 years working on that show, I overcame my fear of the words deaf and disabled. And I finally learned to embrace my new identity. The more I learned, the more I wanted to share this knowledge with others who might be struggling or just curious. So I made videos to share this information with the world on my YouTube channel. From there, I began being asked to speak at schools about hearing loss, bullying, and self-acceptance. I discovered that I enjoyed speaking to audiences, and I loved making a difference. Knowing that my story was motivating people to overcome the barriers in their own lives filled me with a sense of purpose and pride. The feedback I received from speaking made me want to reach a wider audience. I couldn't be in more than one place at once, so to make my story more accessible to others who needed it, I wrote the book Ready to Be Heard: How I Lost My Hearing and Found My Voice, about my journey. I went from being a kid who was told by society that she should hide what made her different and fear her disability, to proudly modeling my hearing assistant devices for print ads, acting on television shows like Switched at Birth, Bad Judge, Speechless, and Sweet Magnolias, traveling the country talking about resilience and teaching diversity inclusion, sharing my journey on the news, in podcasts, newspapers, and now during this TEDx talk. That little girl who used to look in the mirror and fear for her future had become the hero she needed to show her that she was capable of chasing her dreams. My life is not a fairy tale. Every day, I am forced to face rejection, fear, barriers, inaccessibility, and doubt. Yet every day, I still consciously choose to follow my dreams, pave my own path, and create space wherever I can for those who will come after me. Now I hope that my progress and the progress of my peers will help motivate and encourage the next generation of kids growing up feeling lost, different, or lesser than to become their own heroes. My name is Amanda McDonough. I am deaf, and I have become my own hero. Thank you.